Is Weapons really a movie about the supernatural, or is it a movie about how fear and addiction tear our families apart? In this episode of Michael Loves Movies, I'm going to break down the movie Weapons even more. If you haven't seen Weapons, then do two things. One, click the link in the description below because I did a full in-depth movie review, no spoilers. And then two, go to the theater and see Weapons, or depending on when you're watching this, stream it. If you've already seen it, wonderful, because I'm not going to ruin anything for you. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to ruin the entire movie. I don't want to spoiler you, so please go see the film. I've given you the disclaimer. That said, let's jump into it. When I saw Weapons, immediately I felt an intense sense of familiarity with a lot of the experiences of not only the characters, but the plot. The reason why is because I come from a family that was riddled with addiction and fear. And as I watched this film, I couldn't help but think, oh, there's some odd similarities here. There's some things where I'm like, ugh, a little too close for home. A couple examples. One, the character, the girlfriend of the police officer named Paul, Donna, actually my mom's name, very strange, happens. It's a movie. Even more strange, the aunt in the film, the witch, as you know now, Gladys, my grandmother's name. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, holy crap, this is very strange. And then we get into it. And one of the things I want to explore in this video today is talking about the intermingling of addiction and fear and the role that it plays in our lives as we saw it through the screen. And I don't know that this film really set out with the intention to create a social conversation. I think that a lot of times we have to let movies just be movies. And I don't know that especially horror/thriller movies have any inherent responsibility to inform us or to do anything other than entertain us. In fact, I had someone leave a comment and they said, do I actually believe that it's a horror movie's responsibility in any way to make the world better? And I thought about that for a long time. I don't think it's a movie's responsibility ever to make the world better. Does that happen serendipitously? Sure, of course it does. I mean, that's the nature of film. We'll watch a movie and be like, oh my God, this is incredible. But with this film, it's hard not to see the narrative that's being driven. So I'm going to go through a little bit case by case of what I saw and what you saw as well, and how we live in this society that addiction and fear can cripple us in the deepest sense, sprinkle on a little bit of grief, and then you have a conversation to be had about a film that I thought was spectacular, that I think when you break it down, you can find the subtleties that maybe I'm looking too deeply. And I understand that coming into this because it's a movie, but also there's something really beautiful and powerful about that. So if we look at this first and foremost, let's talk about this. You have Justine Gandy. She's the main character. She's the teacher. The grief of the experience looks like it drives her back into her alcoholism. There's a few different times in the movies where you're seeing her drink by herself, whether it's at home or at the bar. And then you see her with Paul, who comes in, he's the cop, and he's clearly sober. He's in sobriety. And one of the things that we know is that they're obviously in some kind of relationship or have been in some kind of relationship together. Next thing you know, drinks start flowing. Paul cashes in his chip. He wakes up with Justine. Drama ensues with the girlfriend, right? We know that that happens. It is fascinating how often that when you bring two people together who have addictive characteristics, that they will go off the rails together. How do I know? It's something that's happened in my personal life, so I recognize that. Then we have James, who's the heroin addict. Here's what's really fascinating. No one, I don't want to say no one because that's unfair. Generally speaking, when we see someone who has done wrong in the world, even when they attempt to do right, we automatically judge them and do not trust them. The experience that James has is very much in alignment with that. And then you have Aunt Gladys, who, this woman is manipulative. Now, obviously she's supernatural. She has the ability to control things, but she will do whatever it takes within her power to get the thing that she wants. This is the thing that we see in family dynamics all over the world constantly. Now, I don't know if she's narcissistic. I don't know if she's just insane. I don't know what it is, but she has this thing inside of her where she's like, I'm going to do whatever is required to get what I want, even if that requires me doing harm to others, right? And the one that suffers the most in all of this are, first and foremost, it's the missing children and their parents, and then Alex Lilly, the little boy who, by the way, holy crap, phenomenal in this film. I hope that kid gets nominated for an Oscar because he was beautiful. But the thing that, as you're watching, especially when Aunt Gladys is manipulating the parents at the kitchen table and they're stabbing themselves in the face, the child, Alex is locked into that moment. He's frozen. He can't move. Fear has overtaken him. And what happens for a lot of children when it comes to domestic violence and abuse in the household, they shut down. So you're watching this thing that is very realistic, something again that hit very home for me, and you're watching it in this way where you're like, what does a child do in that situation? And I don't know that there's a lot that they can do, because fear, especially against a child, is an incredibly powerful tool. And the coercion that Gladys uses to get what she wants is a psychological trick that so many people play. And then you have these parents who are just stricken with grief, who don't know what to do. Everything around them is breaking down, and yet they're trying to be normal. They're trying to be people who are going about their daily lives, having suffered one of the greatest things anyone could ever possibly suffer, and that's the loss of their child. And yet, we continually hear this idea from many of the parents, like, I'm okay. We're making it through, one day at a time. And I couldn't imagine that level of grief. So you have this amazing film that does such a great job in explaining without being, like, honestly, it's not overly explaining itself. As you're watching the film, it's not making itself a point to point out the narrative. But one of the things that it does do, and this is a subtle moment in the film that I caught myself looking back and I'm like, why is that there? And I needed some time to really step back and assess it, because again, I'm not saying that the film and that the writers and the directors meant to go out and create social commentary. But there's a part where, oh gosh, his name just left me. It's going to come back. There's a part where Brolin is going to look for his son, and there's a house, and above the house is an AK-47 illuminated by the moon. And in that illumination, my first thought was, wow, is this a commentary? Is this film actually a film about school shootings and violence in schools and losing children? Is this a commentary about abusive adults who take advantage of children? Is this a commentary about addicts and addiction and the way that it warps everything around us? And I realized it's actually a commentary on all of the above. While again, I don't know that every movie needs to be a commentary, and the subtlety in which this movie does that is really effective. And if you sit down and you think to yourself, why do we need to talk about these things? And why am I even making this video? The thought that comes to mind for me is just simply because we're not talking about it enough as a society and as a culture. There's a lot of people suffering in the world. There's a lot of hurt in the world. And I don't know that everyone can show up with a red cape like Superman and be a superhero and save everyone. You certainly cannot, but we can talk about it a little bit more openly. And if you can do it through the frame of a film where people are engaged and they're in this moment and experience together, I think that carries a lot of weight because it opens up the possibility for conversation. And we live in one of the most addicted societies probably ever in history, especially if you live in the United States. And at the end of the day, I know it's film, I know it's entertainment, but when you really look at this, it's not just the journey of finding these lost children. It's also the journey of giving the hero, which is, at the end of the day, it's Alex. Like, you can say what you want, and you can even possibly say it's Justine, but at the end of the day, the hero of this film is Alex. This little boy who, against all odds, is walking into a normal, esque society. He's back in school, his parents have shut down, he's being manipulated, and yet he's still showing up. And then he has an opportunity to make a decision that honestly most adults probably wouldn't make. And that's to do the right thing. And the right thing so happens to be the experience of him getting the victory along with the other children. And that's something that's really powerful, because a lot of children who come from traumatic backgrounds and abusive homes, they lose their voice. How do I know? Because I've helped many of those people and I've been one of those people. And so when I see that, I go, oh, that's so amazing. I'm so happy that it's Alex that won. The little kid figured it out, and he took all of this fear and all the silence, and he found a way to find his voice. So obviously a much deeper dive into the film Weapons than you might have expected. But this is something that I want to explore in a lot of films. Not that, again, every film has a social commentary, but there's a deeper level here. And I think that it was beautifully done. I think there were a lot of fantastic moments to create a space for questions. And most importantly, I think it's a film that if you haven't seen and you just watched this, I might have just ruined, so I apologize, but go and see it. Go experience it. Go talk about it with your friends and family. And maybe through those conversations, we can make the world a little bit of a better place. That said, my friend, thank you so much for being here. If you got any value out of this video, please hit subscribe, share it with a friend, and until next time, enjoy the movies.